Welcome back, everyone. Thanks to SNS Services, we get to share information, and you also get to follow the lives of your favorite stars. This is exactly why SNS management is essential. Essential for the stars, but also for their agencies. So today we will focus on SNS World Marketing. This is K-Showbiz.
Social networking service helps us broaden out our personal network and strengthen our relationship with our friends. These days, SNS Marketing is working hand in hand with the mobile generation, and it's affecting the Korean entertainment industry as well. SNS is in the spotlight all the more as the public can check out the daily and hourly updates of their favorite celebrities. And thus, SNS, which used to be a personal space, is being used for various uses, and public marketing is also done through SNS. Celebrities are using SNS actively as they can communicate with their fans through SNS and post up behind-the-scenes photos and share new updates about themselves with everyone. The girl group Miss A will make a comeback on November 6th. They publicized their comeback teaser clips on SNS and is receiving a lot of interest from their fans. Singer G-Dragon is active with his second solo album these days. He publicized these sound sources on his SNS before the release of his first solo album, Heartbreaker. He gained a lot of attention and raised everyone's expectations for his solo album. The first YouTube Music Awards was recently held, and this year's Music Video Award went to Girls' Generation for their hit I Got a Boy. This is a global event where nominees were based on views, likes, and comments and subscriptions over the last 12 months, and fans voted for the winners. I Got a Boy had the most number of views, shares, and comments on YouTube.
This is absolutely beautiful. YouTube is my best friend. Oh my gosh, I mean, to be here at the first ever YouTube Music Awards is a treat itself, but to win Video of the Year, this is absolutely unexpected and exciting and altogether humbling at the same time. And my sisters, my members, my 8 members on the other side of the planet working and trusting me to represent the group. I love you, I love you. And last but not least, to all our fans who totally gave this to us. This would not be possible without you. So enjoy this moment. Thank you and we love you. 소원 사랑해요. 지금은 소녀시대.
Singer Psy gave the award to Girls' Generation, but he became a world star through SNS. He is a success story of SNS Marketing. The music video for his hit Gangnam Style went viral all over the world at a fast pace through SNS. And that's how he gained fame from all corners of the world. Celebrities gain fame when they debut overseas through their activities overseas, promotions through mass media and marketing. And now it's different. SNS plays an important role in quickly and effectively spreading information about the stars. And thus, it's changing the current form of the Korean wave.
무조건 일방향적으로 홍보를 한다고 해서 효과가 있는 것이라기보다는 그 팬들 혹은 그 수용자들이 자발적으로 알아서 확산시키는 강력한 효과 수단이기 때문에 더욱더 기존의 마케팅 수단과는 다른 효과들을 내보이고 있습니다. 특히 신생이고 후발주자일 경우에는 홍보 수단이 마땅하지 않은데 인터넷 SNS 같은 경우에는 누구라도 그 공간을 통해서 홍보 동영상이라든지 또 메시지들을 올릴 수 있기 때문에 효과적인 장을 마련해 줬다고 볼 수가 있겠죠.
Dozens of new idol stars make their debut these days, and there are only a handful who make it big. The girl group Crayon Pop became known as the second Psy. They gained their fame and became all the more popular through SNS. The entertainment agencies realized the importance of SNS and are working hard to create a more effective marketing. SM Entertainment will even hold a SNS Marketing Idea Contest for its global fans to seek out creative and unique ideas which can be used on SNS Marketing. TV programs are no exceptions either. ARIRANG TV's After School Club is in the spotlight all the more as it comes in first place all over the world on Twitter trending for all of its shows.
Well, we get pleasant surprises on every episode because each topic of the episode has been trending worldwide for the past 8 weeks now, and we've never expected such enthusiastic response. And because our main focus is to build a strong bond between the fans and the K-pop stars, so we tend to invite the fans through SNS from the very start till the end of the show, and I think that's why the fans love this show so much.
Wasn't there another one that
After School Club invited K-pop stars and interacts with their fans through SNS and video chatting. The show actively uses SNS and it's spreading K-pop to less favored countries like Sudan, Siberia, and the Republic of Djibouti.
We're continuing on with what we've been doing with After School Club for the past few months. We're going to keep trending worldwide, and we're actually thinking of incorporating more diverse platforms to invite more people and to enhance the use of SNS. Keep loving our show. We're going to do our best to accommodate to the needs of the overseas fans.
Korea's entertainment industry is spreading all over the world through SNS. It's efficient and connects people from all around the world. It looks like the activities of SNS will continue on for the time being.